Hello everybody, this is Cameron Snow, and this is the second video in our series on geological risking for exploration. And in this video, I just want to go over a few of the reasons why geological risking is important. Okay, so if you're working on an exploration program, there are a lot of questions that are going to come up. And exploration risking can help you understand some of these questions better and help you make more informed decisions. So when I look at the reasons why risk is important is probably my number one reason is it helps us make rational decisions about drilling a prospect. Um, it and the way it does that is when we assign odds to to an outcome, it puts things in a really clear context for us. So if I said, for example, I have a prospect that has 200 million barrels and a prospect that has 2 billion barrels, which one do you want to drill? Well, that could be a very loaded question. Maybe the one that has 200 million barrels has an extremely high chance of success. It's extremely likely to come in as prognosed. And maybe the one that has 2 billion barrels has a very, very low chance of success. And that is where exploration risking helps us because we could say, oh, this 200 million barrel prospect, it has an 80% chance of success. And here are the reasons why. It has clear seismic. We understand the trapping mechanism, and it's a beautiful four-way structural closure. We know that it has good topsill in this area due to the regional deposition of a thick impermeable shale layer. Uh, we have a very clear AVO anomaly that highlights the reservoir presence and the reservoir filling fluid to us. We know there's a proven source rock and so on and so on. And so maybe, this is almost just step out exploration drilling, and we think there's an extremely high chance of success. Versus the other prospect where it's, oh, we have one 2D line across the 2D seismic line across the area. There's one other well in the area that encountered reservoir, but it was wet, and it's 100 kilometers away, and there's no, we don't really have any knowledge about the source rock or its maturity in this area. Um, you know, those would be wildly different prospects where you have one that, is potentially very large, uh, but with a very, very low chance of success based on the data we have, and another that is, of a still large but, a much less game-changing size that is a much higher chance of success. Now, what you would probably want to do in that situation is, of course, try to improve the chance of success of that bigger prospect by acquiring additional data and learning more about the depositional system. But at the time when you need to choose between those two prospects, to make that rational decision, we need the information provided to us. And the best way to summarize that information is through chance of success. And so that's one of the reasons why exploration drilling is critically important. And this really flows into the to the next point, which is we want to make that apples to apples comparison. Now, it was very easy when we were only talking about, prospect A and B, and they were very, very different. When we start looking at a portfolio of exploration opportunities, we need to be able to make that decision uh, without having to dive into the deep details necessarily. So the technical workers, your technical subsurface staff, they'll understand the prospects at a very deep level, but management who may be selecting those prospects, they need this summed up for them and presented in a way that allows them to choose. Um, so for example, we like to present risked volume metrics. So these are the volumes after risk has been taken into account. And then management can look at that and say, oh, okay, the P50 volumes across these, 10 prospects are this. Here's the P10 and the P90 volumes. All right, we can then understand how those fit into context to each other to make those apples to apples type of comparisons. And that's something that is only unlocked in a pre-drill scenario through exploration risking. Post-drill, obviously, the game changes entirely, but that is um, a second reason why it's important. The third reason why it is important to do exploration risking is when you are making long-term investment decisions uh, on the exploration side in terms of which prospects should be drilled. One of the things that you should be thinking about is how do you fill your company's future development pipeline? And this is where you need to think about things in terms of a portfolio and drilling multiple wells, and risking is critical to this. So, you know, perhaps if we go back to that first example where we have a 200 million barrel field and a 2 billion barrel field, and we have a whole bunch of other prospects, in between. Um, maybe management is looking at their development pipeline. They're saying, okay, we do need some immediate development opportunities to grow production, to grow cash flow, but we've also got the risk tolerance and the ability to go drill some higher risk wells that could be potential game changers. So, management needs to have a good understanding for this, so they can make those longer term strategic decisions. Because it's very easy if you don't understand risking properly to fall into the trap of always drilling the safest prospects, even though those may be smaller with respect to volumes. And you could end up, and I've seen this happen to smaller companies before, where you drill out all your low risk inventory, and those often those lower risk, lower reward, lower volume opportunities often have fewer development wells that'll be associated with them. And what ends up happening is a company ends up having a development portfolio of small opportunities and a very high risk portfolio of opportunities that are left over. And this, isn't a balanced approach. So that is another reason why exploration risking is important. And one of the what I think is a really underlooked reason why exploration is important is how it allows us to communicate our expectations. So, if you're doing exploration in a mid cap or large company, your audience for this is predominantly upper management. You are trying to uh, frame the problem to them in a way that allows them to understand what to drill. And being able to explain to them the range of volumetric outcomes, the geological risk, and how those two are merged together to provide these risked volumetric outcomes is critical. It's also important to be able to understand where the systematic risk lie. For example, if you are exploring a frontier basin and you've got beautiful seismic over it, you know you can image the reservoir, you understand the trapping mechanisms, but you know nothing about the source rock. Well, it's important to be able to communicate to management like, hey, we have 30 prospects across this basin, but we don't know anything about the source rock. So here is what could change once we drill a well, whether or not it's successful. If it is successful, it de-risks all of these prospects because then we understand that there's a mature source rock in the area. Or if we encounter this mature source rock, even if this well is a failure, it makes all the other wells, that much more attractive or better understood. So that's an important understanding to be able to communicate. If you're working at a smaller company, a lot of times the target audience won't be upper management. You'll already have them on board with your prospect. The target audience will be your investors, whether or not those are, uh, potential backers of the company who are going to invest money in to help you execute on this drilling program, or the retail shareholders out there who are trading your stock and want to understand if your company is a good long-term investment. Being able to explain clearly the state of your exploration portfolio and the chance of success across your near-term and long-term drilling operations will be critical to helping them understand if your company is one that's worthy of their investment. So those are four of the reasons why I think exploration risking is important. There are obviously lots of other reasons, but to me, the really critical ones are the ones around how we make decisions on which prospects to drill and how we choose to allocate capital over a wide array of prospects. All right, so I hope that was useful to you, and we'll be having our uh, several subsequent videos in this that'll start to flesh out the process of how we go about determining the risk and ensuring that we've done it consistently across our portfolio. All right, thank you.